So now we're going to talk with Merelyn about her inspiration for her work, who is a very famous Australian woman artist. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I can. The artist's name is Margaret Preston, and she was Australia's foremost woman artist between the wars, between World War I and II. She had a prolific production of artwork over 60 years, and she covered all sorts of techniques in both painting and printing and pottery, and her aim was to try and engender and develop an Aboriginality of Australian art, so that she was showcasing what Australia had to offer in terms of flora and fauna and the beauty of our landscape.
So is there one particular medium of her work that inspired you, like mostly the pottery?
Yes, it was the lino prints, and she was influenced by the Japanese in this, and it was the dramatic quality of the lino prints with their black backgrounds, which gave dynamism and silhouette to the shapes and the colours that she used.
Wow, that's really fascinating. Well, I wonder if you could tell us about this piece. I know that each block or each section of the quilt has a story to it.
The genesis of this quilt was this central block called wheelflowers, which is a uniquely Australian plant, and then the other blocks around it evolved using different designs from Margaret Preston. We have the Banksias here and the little blossoms here. Then from those blocks I moved out into the larger blocks, and this block actually took 6 months to make because of the intense applique work in the dots here. This is of gum blossoms. The block up here features the red-tailed black cockatoo, and he is in a tree of native mistletoe. And this is the rock orchids, so unique to Australia. Around the borders we have a lot of cameos of uniquely Australian plants taken from her work.
So it's obvious to me that this is a life's work, and I know that you have an entire exhibition here. How many quilts are being shown here of your work?
There are 14 quilts in total that cover the span of 20 years. All are hand applique quilts and machine quilted.
And this is really a life's work, isn't it?
Yes, it's been a joy. It's an absolute joy that keeps rolling on, because there's so much inspiration in Margaret Preston's work that you just don't know where to stop.
So this was the first piece in this series of work, and I know that a lot of people, when they approach your pieces, they say, I wonder how long it took for her to create these quilts. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, each quilt is actually an evolution. And what started the process was somebody gave me a calendar with the works of Australian artists on it, and one of the prints on that calendar was this piece here, which was one of Margaret Preston's prints, and it so inspired me that the idea lay in my mind for years, and finally I decided to make a move. So I created individual blocks of each of her designs, and then made a central block, centrepiece, and then designed a intense border containing as many figures or shapes from her work as I could.
Well, your work is so intricate, and I think that I wonder, as everyone does when we look at your work, what kind of personality can create something so beautifully intricate?
Well, I have to say, you have to have patience and perseverance, and really the journey, it's all about the journey and the joy that it creates in every stitch is creating or contributing to the whole, and there's so much inspiration, it just buoys you and keeps you going. And it probably took me about almost 3 years to complete this quilt, but as I said, it was an evolution, and I changed the design, changed my ideas several times during the making of it, because you get a lot of thinking time while you're doing hand applique, and this is how it evolved. The label that I made for this quilt names all the blocks in order that they appear on the quilt, so that I've catalogued all the pieces that she made that I've used.
I'd like you to tell us about one more quilt here, and I know there's a special story behind this one.
Yes, this quilt is called Bird of Paradise, and I started off making a small quilt in the centre, which was made specifically for a competition. But I like my works to be a little bit larger, so what I did was expand the design, make another quilt, cut out the centre of that quilt and piece the smaller quilt into it, and then add a border.
They say necessity is the mother of invention. It sounds like that was the case here.
I think so. It just, yeah. Oh, sorry.
That's great. Well, I just want to thank you again, Merelyn, for your time and for your work, which is such an incredible inspiration, I'm sure, for everyone who sees this.
Thank you so much for your interest. It's a delight to share it with everybody.